it down, speak louder. That was my name. Yeah. Eagerly leaving the scene to go and chase his dream. On a mission, wishing ever since he was only 15. With sincerity, I'll never give in to the popularity. The clarity's a rarity when you're compared to me. Now where were we? Where were we? And I don't mean to be cocky, but I'm never doing this sloppy. And all that hating, it's not me. So I'm original, no copy. Can't copy my swag. I'm spitting liquid, twisting like my name was Mickey Fast. And I'm the 11th freshman on the cover, double XL. Did it get any?
All right. Joining me to my right is Justin Arth. He is a quarterback who attended Texas-Wesleyan University, a school that should ring a bell after our Damian Francis interview a little while ago. Justin graduated following the 2020 season, correct?
Yeah, 2020 season.
Okay. Entering the 2021 NFL draft circuit after some delays on his entering the 2020 draft. Unfortunately, that was a very deep quarterback class, and due to a career in college that was unconventional, to say the least, NFL teams kind of overlooked you. However, this offseason, it sounds like after you lit up the Arena League, you kind of opened some eyes, and you've begun to receive a lot more interest this past offseason. Thank you for joining me today, and how are you doing today?
Oh, thank you for having me on. I'm doing great. Little tired from substitute teaching today. These kids are a little crazy here in Texas, but no, I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be on the show.
Absolutely, I can feel that after we just like I just said, we talked about. I was in there for about 11 hours today, so.
Yeah.
So go ahead and give us a quick introduction in your own words, and then we'll get into a little bit more detail in your career.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me or haven't seen anything of me at all, my name's Justin Arth. I'm a quarterback out of Texas-Wesleyan, like Sam over here said. I reign from Stockbridge, Georgia, small little suburban town right south of downtown Atlanta, so we're about 30 minutes south. Born and raised in Georgia, became a partial Texan as I moved out to Wesleyan, and now I kind of claim Texas as a second home. My girlfriend won't let me live it down either. So no, I'm not leaving Texas anytime soon, but no, I mean, I'm a follower of Christ. It's something that I definitely hold true to my heart, and one of the big platforms that I have as an athlete. And then I've been blessed to kind of be in this situation. I've had a hard kind of time growing up, going through the football game, and it's finally starting to pay off now, and hopefully we'll start paying some big time bills pretty soon.
Absolutely. So if you've watched this channel, one of the things that I like to highlight in all these interviews is perseverance. And Justin's another guy that shows just how key perseverance is in life and in your career. Sometimes you're going to experience setbacks despite how good your plan might have been. And sometimes you got to improvise and find ways around that and just figure out a way to still succeed and make it to your goals.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So at what age did you begin playing football, like organized pad football, and what inspired you to play the game at that age?
Yeah, so for me, I got a late start. I really didn't even fall in love with the game of football until like 6th grade. So I didn't even try out for a football team until 7th grade. So I was kind of a soccer, baseball, and soccer, baseball, and basketball growing up, kind of like in rec leagues, and then obviously kind of got into baseball more as I kind of got to middle school, high school, all that. But no, football was something I got a late start into. I kind of got introduced to it through my dad, and perfect timing of kind of becoming a Minnesota Viking fan because he was from Minnesota. Fell in love with Brett Favre and the team that the Vikings had, and that's what kind of turned me into football. So I started looking up YouTube videos and teaching myself how to throw a football myself, and like, hey, Dad, I want to go do this. So we ran out to the front yard and started throwing as much as we could with his back issues, and kind of taught myself how to play quarterback. And hey, come 7th grade, I'm trying out for the team, and it's history ever since.
That's kind of amazing to think that you got started that late and then found success so early in your high school career. We'll get into that here in a minute, but growing up in Georgia, were you a Falcons fan? Did you follow Georgia University primarily?
Yeah, so for me, I actually didn't start as a Falcons fan. I am now. So Falcons, if you're listening, I'm always open for another call. But no, My dad is from Minnesota. He and his family of 6 other siblings, so he was one of 7. They kind of all grew up Cowboys fans at one point, and then kind of switched to the Minnesota Vikings. And so he kind of passed that down to me once I really started watching football. And it was kind of that perfect time of Adrian Peterson was a rookie I believe in 2008. And then Favre joined the team in 2009, 2010. And I really started watching him then. And around that time, Tim Tebow was bursting onto the scene. And so he was a guy that I kind of followed for faith reasons. And then obviously he was just a polarizing character. Like, you got to love him. So my first ever NFL game was flying from Atlanta up to Minnesota in the old Metrodome to see a Tim Tebow preseason game against Brett Favre and the Vikings. And Favre didn't play because, it was the third preseason game of the season. But
Wow.
But no, I mean, enjoyed that. But the Vikings are the team that I kind of grew up watching, and I still follow them to this day. I mean, still one of them kind of like bucket list dream teams that I'd love to play for if I'm fortunate enough to have a long NFL career. But no, I mean, the Falcons quickly became a favorite team of mine once I realized, like, hey, like the NFL's got 32 teams, and there's one of them like 30 minutes up the street. So the Falcons were definitely a team. But then around that same time, I was getting into football. The University of Georgia was there. All my friends at church, all my friends at school were Georgia Bulldog fans. Heck, the middle school, high school I went to was named the Bulldogs, and we used the same logo, just a D instead of a G. So, I mean, it was easy to become a Georgia Bulldog fan, and we'll get into it later. But kind of found my first real football idol from the University of Georgia, and wanted to be just like them. So yeah, the University of Georgia and the Minnesota Vikings is how I kind of got a start, and then quickly found the Atlanta Falcons after that.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of interesting side note, but my brother's a huge Falcons fan. I'm an Eagles fan, and we grew up in Denver, Colorado. And yeah. So it's kind of one of those situations where we just both ended up picking teams that were like, had nothing to do with our home state or any team my dad rooted for. He's from Chicago originally, and he's a huge Broncos fan. But, anyway, moving on. Entering high school as an athlete is an experience that I never really got to have. So for our fans out there that didn't get to experience that as well, talk to us about what high school was like from the perspective of the starting quarterback.
Yeah. So in high school, it really depends. Now, if you're asking me, and I grew up in the state of Texas where I'm at now, like, okay, yeah, that's a completely different story because football is a little different here. Not to say the talent in Georgia is any slouch, because in my opinion, we're a lot better than even the state of Texas and what they're putting out, even though Texas is the top 5 every year in high school recruiting. But I mean, yeah, but quick side note, you look at the percentages. I can't name them off the top of my head, but I know Georgia's number 1 in terms of land mass per Division I recruit and land mass per NFL player. So, Georgia's making the most money. So just go ahead and add me to the list. But no, I mean, going from Dutchtown High School and then even Creekside Christian Academy, my high school career was kind of up and down. And so there were times that it was great to walk around campus and guys are treating you like the guy, and everyone's wanting to give you high fives. Everyone's wanting to kind of be your friend. And then there's other times where maybe you have a bad game or you lose the job that week or whatever, and people are saying, okay, you should go take a hike, like go somewhere else, like, because you're not the guy, like you're full of crap, like you're not a good football player or whatever. And so for me, I just tried to take the same kind of level-headed approach of I'm going to go in and handle my academics, which I kind of have gotten better at because I was kind of a steady riser. So like I had a 3.49 in high school and then a 3.69 in bachelor's and then a perfect 4.0 in my master's. So I was kind of a perfect grading scale upwards. So I kind of improved as I went. Didn't have such a fast start. But no, I tried to apply myself academically and kind of take that humble road where I'm like, all right, I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to do what I can to prove people wrong. I mean, most of the guys I played high school football with and middle school football with, they played on peewee teams together, Pop Warner teams, and they've been playing with the same people for 10 years. And we just hit freshman year of high school. And I'd only played organized football for 2 years. And so I had to take that kind of humble mentality of, okay, I say I want to be an NFL player. So what's the work ethic that I need to put in as a high schooler or a middle schooler? to kind of take that chance that on my YouTube channel, I say it like this, 1% better each and every day. So what's that one thing that you can do today to get yourself 1% better? And all it has to be is one thing, because if you stack that up over 365 days, you're 365% better than the day that you started. And so I try to take that and, okay, if people are praising me, yeah, it feels good on the inside. But at some point, like, the praise isn't going to be there. The media is not always going to be on your side. And so you need to be able to be level-headed and take that humble approach of, okay, like, so what? I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to continue to improve. And who cares what everybody on the outside says?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in year 3, you were a junior. You ended up going to Creekside Christian Academy, like you said. What brought this about? Was this a move with your family, or was it a personal decision?
Yeah, so Creekside Christian Academy is only 10 minutes down the street from the high school that I went to. So it was essentially just going public, going from a public school and going private. So I grew up in the Dutchtown cluster, which I even subbed at for a little bit, and we'll kind of be going back here once I'm back in Georgia for these workouts I've got back in Atlanta. But no, so grew up in that cluster, loved it there, loved the teammates that I had, loved the school. But once I got to high school, we had a really good freshman class, and obviously we'll talk about that here in a second. But we won early. We were a really good team. We won the 7th grade championship, undefeated, won the 8th grade championship, losing to our rival Stockbridge in the regular season, but then beating them in the championship. And then we kind of repeated the same thing our freshman year on the freshman team, losing to Stockbridge in the regular season and then beating them in the championship game. And so we had 3 straight years of championships right off the jump. And we were riding high saying, all right, we're going to go in. Yeah, we may have to play freshman football our freshman year, but we're all going to be guys that are going to be playing on varsity as a sophomore. And so we got to varsity sophomore year. And it was me and another sophomore quarterback that actually ended up going to play at Jacksonville for a little bit before he retired from football, in Kalen Epps. And they played both of us. But the kind of real reason why I left was we had a really good head coach our freshman year, in Coach Jason Galt, who had run the program for 5 or 6 years, was in the play-in game every single year, never really made it deep in the playoffs. But we were a school that at the time, like, it was good to make a play-in game rather than just be done at the regular season.
Gotcha.
And so, like, he had a good program going, but some money laundering issues popped up that we kind of find out later that it wasn't him, but was blamed on him. So they fired him after my freshman year, brought in a new coaching staff our sophomore year, kind of had a quarterback carousel my sophomore year at Dutchtown and on the varsity level, and played well, felt like I deserved the job. But at the same time, like, that coach ended up putting us, I think, like $15,000 in debt just to paint our football field and some other things. And then he got let go because we only had a 4-6 season. And, and I would have had 3 coaches in 3 years. And even though I love my teammates there, still talk to some of them to this day, I was like, hey, like, if I'm really serious about playing Division I college football, I don't need to be in a quarterback carousel. And Kalen's not going anywhere. And the coaching staff, having 3 head coaches in 3 years at the same school, doesn't bode well for going into a junior year when college recruiting is at its highest. If you're not getting recruited Division I your sophomore, junior year, you're not going to be a Division I football player. Now, obviously, a good friend of mine, and he's deserving of being the first quarterback taken in this year's NFL draft, in Malik Willis. Like, he's a completely different story. Like, he was unheard of at Roswell High School until his senior year, and he got an offer from Auburn really late. But that doesn't happen to everybody. And so I already knew, like, I needed somewhere where I could get the majority playing time and have a coaching staff that was going to choose me, want me, and want to develop me. And so had some friends from church who went to a small private Christian school called Creekside Christian Academy. They had only started a football program, I want to say, back in like 2005. So it's a really fresh new program, even though the school has been around since the 80s. It was a team of only like 32 guys, so most guys played both ways and all that. But it was a good football team. They just didn't win very many games because they didn't ever have a true kind of number one at quarterback. It was always like, okay, we've got a guy who can run but can't really throw. So if it's like a rainy game, we'll win a game. But any other circumstance, we're probably not going to win. And so I was like, hey, it's only a 5-minute longer drive to get to school. And my sister at that point was leaving the elementary school I went to, and the middle school and high school had kind of gone down in terms of what my parents felt comfortable with her to be in. And they were fine with me because obviously like I gelled well with everybody. But my sister's a little bit different of a character and kind of gets her emotions hurt a little bit too much. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, so they made the switch to switch her into middle school there. And they're like, hey, if you want to go too, go ahead. And so I kind of had this whole recruiting process at the end of my sophomore year where I was talking to Eagles Landing Christian Academy, which put guys like Isaac Rochelle at Notre Dame, and then obviously in the NFL with the Chargers and the Colts, and we'll see where he signs now. And and plenty of other guys. I know a good friend of mine, Bo Beasley, he played at Point University and probably should still be playing, but he's coaching now in Georgia, and happy for him. But no, I almost went there, but I just felt like Creekside was a good football team, good school, and they were just missing the piece of quarterback. They had the team together, they just weren't winning games. They needed a little bit of a change of culture, but the coaching staff was trying to build the culture, and felt like I could go there and compete for a job and win early. And so just kind of was like, hey, it's not too much longer of a drive, get a good education, get a good Christian education, and go win some football games and get more film.
So you kind of alluded to it. They had never had a winning season prior to your arrival. Yeah. You step in the door and all of a sudden you're a quarterback. And like you said, the missing piece to the offense, and they suddenly have their first winning season. How did that feel at the time, and how did people surrounding the school react to all of this?
Yeah. So, Creekside, it actually started off kind of rough. So I don't know if you know about private schools, but a lot of private schools are kind of very cliquey because a lot of them are the rich donors or people that go to the church that the school is run out of. And so everyone's kind of all cliquey, and then you're showing up and you're like, okay, yeah, I know some people from church. But I don't know everybody, and everybody's in a clique. And here I come taking who they thought, another sophomore going into his junior year who was the starting quarterback the last 2 years, and I'm going to take his job, and just stepping on campus, and Coach Gilbert's giving me the job, and I'm just like, guys, I didn't decide this. So in reality, the first summer workouts, I was hated. Funny enough, because Dutchtown High School is kind of a majority African-American school. When they heard they were getting a quarterback transfer from Dutchtown High School, they're thinking, oh, we're getting a 6'4" black dude that can run and throw 80 yards, and we're going to get someone. And then here comes 6 foot white dude that looks just like those guys, just maybe a little taller. Who are we getting? Like, what? Is he some scrub from the JV team or something? So I had to kind of really earn their trust, build their trust. But just like the beginning of my high school career, going from the freshman year, immediately kind of winning, and then kind of going through the bumps of sophomore year, being able to go in and win a locker room and really try to figure out who those guys are and become their friends, and earn their trust by how I perform on the field, and say, hey, I might have been in the only time ever in my career that I've ever been handed a job. But the thing is, I wanted to prove that I was not just handed the job, that I worked extremely, extremely hard, showed relentless effort for it. And the good thing is I think for Cam, the guy who I ended up taking his quarterback spot, I think it helped him in his college career anyway, because he moved to slot receiver, and he had an amazing junior year. And then he kind of moved around to running back and slot receiver his senior year, and made some plays too. So I think it was very beneficial for all of us to kind of have me come in and kind of be the culture setter. We talk about setting a culture for an organization in the NFL, and how in Jacksonville it didn't happen this year, and how Urban Meyer's kind of fear tactics don't work in the NFL. They need guys like me, even though I feel like I'm not as good as maybe I say, but at the same time, you need guys to go in there and really kind of change the culture. And I was able to do that help do that at Dutchtown, and aid in what the coaches and even players were already doing at Creekside.
Absolutely. Leadership and confidence in the quarterback is a huge thing. Even if, it's not necessarily the most experienced quarterback in the world, if you have confidence in that person that they're going to be there when, the time counts. We saw that firsthand in Denver with Peyton Manning at the tail end of his career. I mean, he didn't have the arm strength to throw the passes that he once did, and he still got by simply based on his football IQ and his confidence in the players around him and vice versa. So, I mean, it's definitely very important to have that part of it as well as, all the physical talent that you have as well.
Oh, definitely. And it was a nice career to kind of have the 2 seasons I had there and put up the numbers that I did. And I guess it led to me being inducted to the Creekside Christian Academy Sports Hall of Fame. And I didn't find that out till like my junior year of college when I was checking the website.
They don't even let you know?
Yeah, they didn't even let me know. Last thing that I heard from them was, hey, you won the leadership award your senior year of high school, and then congrats on signing, being the first guy in program history to sign an offer to go play college football. And then boom, like, yeah, it's, oh, hey, how you doing? Like, every time I'm back and showing up at a graduation or whatever. And then they're like, oh, we forgot to tell you, you're in the Creekside Sports Hall of Fame.
That's crazy. So
Creekside, if you're out there, Shaq, go buy me because Shaquille O'Neal's a kind of donor because he lives in the area now. But Shaq, hey, go buy me a plaque. I need to put it on the wall.
That's awesome. So as a senior, you kind of mentioned it, you kind of continued your success, but you ultimately ended up injured. You broke your left clavicle, which is not an easy injury to come back from. Not exactly a quick rehab process, especially if you're a quarterback, I can imagine. I mean, you're torquing that shoulder a lot, even if it's your non-throwing shoulder. I mean, your follow through, correct? You're kind of moving everything. So after that, you ended up returning and still leading your team to the championship game. I mean, what did this mean to you after the injury, the quarterback carousel that you mentioned in your sophomore season? I mean, everything you had been through to that point.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of get the story straight a little bit, we were the team kind of carried me in a way to the championship game because they actually did it without me. I only came back for the championship game. And so I got hurt in a game that we were winning 30-7. Backup quarterback comes in, makes it 36-7, and I go out on a PAT to hold it, and I end up breaking it on that day. So it was September 18th, 2015. And then Romo 3 days later on that Sunday breaks his, and he's over here saying, it's broke, like in a calm tone and everything. And I'm over here screaming by the cheerleaders. So I'm like, all right, I guess I need to work on the toughness side of it. But no, I mean, we ended up winning that game. We were 5-0, but ended up thinking I lost the rest of my season because then I am sitting in the emergency room, come back, have to wait till the following Monday to even see a true doctor. They put me in some really weird sling where my arm's like sitting like that. But ended up seeing the doctor that next Monday, and they pretty much told me, hey, you've got 2 options. One's like an 8-week recovery and one's a 10-week recovery or something like that. Or maybe it was a little shorter because of how time ended up working out. But you can either have surgery and you're back 2 weeks faster, or you don't have surgery and the bone's probably stronger. Because the way I broke it's like bone was like this, broke like that. It was like centimeters from poking out of my skin. And without surgery, you just put it together there and a nub forms, and it's even stronger, thicker, and tighter. So I still have the nub here to this day. So that kind of gives you the answer. I elected don't have surgery because there's only 2 week longer recovery and the bone was going to be stronger. And so I kind of sacrificed the senior season a little bit. We'll get into the college recruiting side and what that ended up meaning for my career and how it kind of turned based on this injury. But I mean, team carried itself. Yeah, they went 2-3 to finish the regular season with the backup quarterback. But in a smaller GISA league or GICAA at the time league, where 4 teams made the playoffs and there I think were 10 teams total. We started 5-0, so to finish 7-3 still gets you a 4th seed out of 4 for the 4-team playoff. So they were able to sneak in and then get by our rivals community in the semifinal game and get to the state championship game. So I was actually cleared to return to kind of practice and play for that community game, but Coach Gilbert didn't feel like I was going to be safe enough on the field, so he held me out. So I'm sitting here on the sidelines, suited and booted, ready to go in, wishing I was out there with my boys and sitting on the sideline trying to be the best leader, cheerleader, and everything that I can. So there's this picture that I've got still saved on my phone to this day as one of my kind of like little box widget box things. But it's a picture of me talking to one of my buddies who's a corner, Daniel Fuqua, and there's this picture of me kind of leaning over, tapping him on the helmet. And I remember specifically right then I was saying, hey, like, we were losing in the game at the time. And I was like, hey, go get us an interception, go make a play. And that very next play is out on the field, takes it for a pick six, offense starts working again, and we get the state championship. So one of my favorite pictures of all time in my career. But no, I mean, they got us to the state championship game, and I was just fortunate enough to be able to play in the state championship game and had the game of my life. Had 300 yards, 300-something yards passing, 3 touchdowns. But we had Christian Tate, a Georgetown commit, who ended up playing fullback and D tackle for Georgetown. On the other side of the ball, he ran for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, and we lost 42-22.
500 yards?
Yeah. Broke a Georgia high school state record.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so just to let you know how he was playing running back. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, and ran a 4.5. You think private school Christian kids going to be able to tackle him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
He carried people.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. So,
like
you
wish
said,
I had that championship ring, but still haven't really got the real true championship because I don't think people count freshman championships or 7th or 8th grade championships.
Hey, I mean, at least it's something, although you're right. Yeah, I'm sure you have much bigger goals and aspirations at hand, that's for sure. So like you alluded to, you had a very interesting recruitment process, I'm sure. What schools were interested in you at the time, and how did you decide on Texas-Wesleyan?
Yeah, so it kind of all started out like I said, like me transferring schools kind of was like, all right, I got to get more film, got to get on the field more to be able to garner some interest. And I was fortunate enough to going into my junior year, I was invited just because of play alone to an elite junior showcase and was able to kind of showcase my skills. Unfortunately, wasn't an Elite 11 guy. Wish I had the merch to still wear to this day, but was able to go out there and kind of prove that I deserved the offers, deserved looks. And so I ended up getting a lot of lower, like group of 5 FBS offers or FCS offers. And I kind of narrowed it down to Georgia State, UAB, Vanderbilt, and Houston Baptist, UAB, Georgia State, and Vanderbilt. And so I kind of narrowed it down there. That's when UAB had shut down their football program. And I'm like, hey, it's a D1 school in the Conference USA. Like, that's going to be my school. But my mom worked at Georgia State, and it was right downtown. And so it was, and then Vanderbilt was there, but I was like, hey, I'm probably not going to play at Vanderbilt. I'm just going to be another guy. And so Houston Baptist, pretty good school. Funny enough, ended up playing them in my college career 3 times. So, but no, I mean, decided right at the, funny enough, the weekend that I broke my collarbone, that next week was my Georgia State official visit. So my pictures I have of my Georgia State official visits, me sitting there, arm outside of a sling, hurting like crazy with the jersey on, and that I posted to social media. And the way things go is whenever you are number 2 on their list of guys that they want, if you show up with a broken bone or a broken collarbone, in my case, even though it wasn't the throwing arm, you're damaged goods. And so Georgia State pulled their offer that day. And then UAB quickly found out, and Vanderbilt and all those guys kind of found out. And so I think I ended up having 13 total offers, but I wasn't really considering some of them. I just kind of was like, hey, I got a D1 offer here, but didn't really think I was going to go there. But ended up losing every single one of them. And all I had left was a PWO at Baylor. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take this. But then the coaches reached out and said, hey, like, you got to get on merit into school. And Baylor is a very hard school to get into. Like I said, I had a 3.49 in high school. So I still a smart kid. And I got a 25 on my ACT, which is still fairly good. But they needed a minimum 26. And so the only school I ever got rejected by like the 40 or 50 schools I applied for was Baylor. And then there went that PWO too. So, but to get to Wesleyan, ended up finding a D2 school in West Virginia, Alderson Broaddus University, that I was going to go to. Was going to commit to go there, had the papers on signing day to sign there. But then I got a phone call at 7:30 in the morning on signing day saying, hey, our number one guy, the passing leader in Pittsburgh or whatever, was going to sign. And so, hey, we're going to pull your offer on signing day, like the morning of. And so we canceled.
Oh, Lord.
So we canceled the signing day and everything, and kind of was the laughing stock of the school that day. Like, you talk about your D1. Oh, you talk about this, but you ain't signing, stuff like that. And so ended up having to push the recruitment process off. But at that time, I already had some like offers like Wesleyan and Alma College and Crown College and Maranatha Baptist, and I believe one other. Still kind of Sunny Alfred State. Had those kind of hanging around. And so I kind of waited until April to end up signing. But Texas-Wesleyan found me because back in January of that year, I was invited to go to the NUC Texas versus World game out here in DeSoto, Texas. And I was like, hey, like I'm going to go play there. I'm going to go put up some numbers, even if I'm playing only a quarter, because, they invite 8 total quarterbacks and 4 on one team, 4 on the other, and you only get a quarter to play. And so ended up playing well, and Texas-Wesleyan, who was starting up their football program or restarting their program because they hadn't played since 1941. And we'll get into that story too. But Coach Paul Duckworth, the defensive coordinator and co-head coach, and then Coach Joe Prudhomme, and they're still the coaches over there today. Love them to death. I actually need to go over and see them because I'm only 15 minutes from them. But no, I mean, they were handing out cards saying, hey, if you're interested, like handing out cards saying, hey, go apply to the university. We're interested in you. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to go do it. And then the more I kind of researched about the school, they had a business degree accreditation, which is what I got my bachelor's and master's in. They had an AACSB accreditation. So it's an accreditation that only like Ivy Leagues pretty much have. Like there's more schools than that have it, but it's pretty much only an exclusive Ivy League one. So if you find a school, it's not Ivy League that has it, like it's a good business school. So the business school was great. Smaller campus, smaller, smarter is their motto. I mean, liked the colors because I was blue and gold. My last 2 years of high school, they're blue and gold. So wouldn't really have to change the color palette. But no, when I narrowed it down to those like last 5 or 6 schools, some of the D3s was going to be hard to go to because, it's like $40,000 a year and D3 doesn't offer athletic scholarship. But it was good that Texas-Wesleyan was the closest one to home too. Yeah, 12-hour and 7-minute drive away, but closest one that I had to home. Good business school, and the similar pool that really made me want to go to UAB was starting up a football program from nothing. And Wesleyan was going to offer me that. And I was like, hey, good chance to go get a good degree, be in Fort Worth, Texas, which seems like a pretty good city. And end up going there and having the career that I have. So, I mean, it's right where God wanted me. And met my girlfriend there and sitting at her house now, born and raised here in Fort Worth. So, she never even left home and went to school there. So, it's a great school. I'm a proud TxWes alum. And so, had a great career.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like you just mentioned, Texas-Wesleyan had not played football for something like 50 years, almost 60
75.
years. 75 years. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Apparently my math is terrible. What led you to take a leap of faith with this school, and what kept you there throughout your college career?
Yeah. So like I said, the whole allure of like UAB was the fact that they had just shut their football program down in 2013 due to funding issues, and they were bringing it back after 3 years, like a 3-year hiatus. Well, the story with Texas-Wesleyan was their team captain in 1941 decided to go fight in World War II and challenged the team to go with them. And so like they shut down the football program so they could go fight in World War II. And then they just never got it started back. And Coach Prudhomme gets hired out of Nolan Catholic High School, which is right over here down the street. He's a legend of the city. And they bring him in and, hey, we're starting a football program. Like, we're going to bring kids in the fall of 2016, whether they're JUCOs, freshmen coming in, preferably freshmen, because they're only going to bring in 75 guys. And we weren't even going to play a season in 2016. It was going to be a building year where we're all redshirting and lifting weights and getting ready for 2017. But I mean, just the fact to go in and build on a program that hasn't had football in 75 years and what type of media presence would you get from that? I mean, the first game that we ever had where we ended up playing McPherson College up in Kansas, like we were on College Game Day. First time in a long time in NAIA has ever been on College Game Day. College Game Day wasn't in McPherson, Kansas to highlight our game, but we were mentioned. And they showed our highlights saying, hey, Texas-Wesleyan hasn't played in 75 years. They're playing college football today.
That's awesome.
And so like obvious, and then like my freshman year, we ended up having like a whole Hard Knock series or whatever, like a Facebook Hard Knock series. Can't even remember what it's called now, but no, we had a whole like TV series on us that year and documenting the journey back and all that. So I mean that was kind of the allure there, but again, it was the business degree too. Like I mean, I'm a big planner, so I understand I'm not going to be able to play football until I'm 90, 100. So my football career could be over tomorrow. It could be over 25 years from now, or anywhere in between. And so like, I've got to be able to set up whatever I'm going to do outside of football. And for me, I grew up a fan of sports video gaming, the franchise modes in particular. And a lot of the GMs had business degrees. Because they're good business leaders. They know how to maneuver a cap, salary cap. And so that's what I want to do outside of the game whenever my time's up. And I just wanted to set that side of life up for whenever football would be done. So, but what kind of kept me at Wesleyan through kind of the ups and downs that we'll kind of talk about here was the fact that I really kind of grew a family there. I fell in love with the city. Like I treat Fort Worth as if it's my second home. Like I show up to the city, I get goosebumps. Because I just love it so much. Atlanta's always going to be home for me. I'm always going to be a proud Georgian. I'm wearing my Braves World Championship polo right now. So I'm always going to be an Atlanta native, Atlanta homer, and I'm always going to claim Atlanta. But I also claim Fort Worth now too. I'm an honorary Texan, as my girlfriend says. So, it was the pull of that and the pull of the teammates because I had built so many great connections with those guys. And like Damien and Brandon Rolfe and Collier Ricks and Donovan Isom, which was the quarterback that even took my spot for a couple of years. And I grew so many great connections. And whether it was Coach Cox, even though sometimes we didn't see eye to eye on the offensive coordinator side of things, and Coach Prudhomme, the head coach. And I just loved the school, loved how it operated. And that's what kind of kept me there. And plus, like, as we talk about the struggles and the triumphs and all that here in a second, like, I wanted to prove people wrong and say, like, hey, you can stay and fight. Like, you read all about Tom Brady's career, which is someone who my agent tells me all the time. And people tell me all the time, like, because I'm working with Tom House. He's Tom Brady's trainer. And so it's kind of like they're telling me all the time, like, hey, you remind us of Brady, maybe a little softer, because you're not as intense as he is at times, but you remind us of Brady. You're fighting for every single thing that you have, and you're extremely talented. So all you really need is that one shot, and you've got it. You're golden. You're good. And so I wanted to prove that you can stay and fight in this world of a transfer portal, and go win the job, and because it's going to make you better for it in the long run. So, those are kind of all the factors that kind of led me into staying at Texas-Wesleyan. And hey, I still even thought about the transfer portal. I almost transferred 2 different times from Wesleyan. So,
honestly, I got to say, after hearing everything you went through with kind of yo-yoing in and out of the lineup and stuff like that, it doesn't surprise me to hear that you considered transferring. And the fact that you stayed just kind of shows the guy that you are. You kind of like started a project and you didn't want to leave it unfinished. And
exactly
kind of how I saw that. So it's one of those things that's like, I can relate to that. I on a whole nother level, I can definitely relate to that. So it was awesome to see from another man and like a person who you just stuck it out through so much, like I said. They weren't necessarily giving you the opportunity that you deserved or you needed to showcase yourself, and sticking through that's a lot. Especially when that's your one shot at college.
Yeah.
So, that's big, man. It really is. So obviously I sent you these questions before, so you know what's coming. But I'm not a very big college football fan. I literally know very little about it. I look up the statistics. I have the idea behind what the conferences are and stuff like that. But past that, there's not a whole lot of knowledge here as far as college goes. So kind of explain what a redshirt process is like, is that whole season, are you, nose in the playbook, stuck in the weight room, or are you actually on the practice field with the team, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so to break your mind a little bit, there's red shirts, gray shirts, blue shirts. There's all kind of shirts, but they all mean something different. And so in a normal college football program, a red shirt essentially means you're not playing football that year. You're still going to practice with the team. You're still a part of the team, and you're in the meetings with the team. You're a part of the team. Like, you even probably travel, especially at some of these Division I schools, and you're wearing a jersey on the sideline. You're just not padded up. But essentially, the way they do it is with the NCAA, once your clock starts, like once you take one snap or once you get on campus, your clock starts and it's not stopping. And so you got 4 years of eligibility. And once it's up, it's up. So the only thing that can pause that clock is a red shirt. And that's where you take the entire full season off. Now, if we wanted to get big into what a gray shirt and a blue shirt and all that stuff is too, it's essentially the same thing. Like a gray shirt is, I believe, you're going in on as just a regular student, and you don't become a football player until the next spring. So it's a different way to start your clock in a different semester and all those kind of different things. But essentially, a red shirt is a year pause of your years of eligibility. So it's essentially giving you 5 years to play 4 seasons. But with my case in redshirting, kind of like I alluded to, Texas-Wesleyan's plan to build a program was different than even one of our conference rivals in Ottawa of Arizona that started a year after us. Ottawa of Arizona went in and announced a football program, I believe back in 2014, but had a 4 or 5 year building process where they would build a stadium, they would build a weight room. They would get uniforms. They would hire a coaching staff before they recruited even one player. Wesleyan did it the opposite way. They started of saying hey, we're renovating one cafeteria area into a new weight room, which is a very nice weight room for an NAIA program, and I love it. But we're going to build a weight room. We're going to hire a coaching staff, and we're going to bring in players. But in reality, we didn't even have equipment yet. And so the way Wesleyan kind of did it was bring in players and then we'll handle everything else. So if we need to redshirt the entire class for 1 year and push off when we actually play a season, then we'll do that. And so what ended up happening for me was we all came in 2016 knowing that we weren't going to play that fall in 2016. Gotcha. So we came in, we knew we were going to be lifting weights and on a practice field, but we weren't in pads at all that fall. We were on a field in T-shorts doing football drills, learning fundamentals of football and learning the offense 7-on-7, stuff like that, while we were watching college football on Saturdays and learning how to be college students. And then once we got to the spring, then we had pads, we had helmets, we had uniforms, and we started going at it like any other college football team would. So obviously, since we were starting up a program from nothing, our red shirts – everybody redshirted as opposed to maybe 10 or 15 guys on a roster. But with the new rules in college football now too, redshirting has become so different. Like when I was a freshman, if I would have had a season in 2016, redshirting means if I touched the field at all, the red shirt's gone. You burn a year of eligibility, even if you play in one play. But the way college football is now, they've moved it to where you can appear in 4 games now. 4 full college football games out of the 12 that's on your schedule, and still save the year of eligibility. So it's a way to develop players and keep an extra year of eligibility, and they get to play 4 games. And so you'll see maybe a 5-star quarterback go to Georgia, for example. And in garbage time, playing Charleston Southern, you can throw them out in the 4th quarter, and then they'll play Georgia Tech and blow them out by 40. And you can throw him in the 4th quarter as well. And he's only played 2 years, but he's had two games of game experience, and he still saves a year, and he's still a redshirt freshman next year. So, I mean, that's essentially kind of a rundown of it. But again, with Texas-Wesleyan and where we were as a program in 2016, the reason I redshirted was kind of a forced redshirt. when usually, like in college football, the player at least has a little bit of a say in it because they're playing a season. But yeah, that's essentially a rundown on redshirt.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you. Appreciate that. I was just kind of curious because, like, I've never really looked into it too much, and I was like, if I'm doing this, I should probably have an idea what a red shirt is, other than they don't play that season, which is basically what you kind of classified it as.
Yeah.
I'm going to back us up just a little bit. I'm going to play some of your recruitment highlights. It might mute our mics right away, but we can bring them back and talk over the highlights because there's no
definitely.
audio on them. So this should be your recruitment highlights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this was one that the recruiting service I had at the time, TigTal Sports and Exposure, they were saying, hey, your high school film's good, but we need to go ahead and go out there with your quarterback coach, Sean McAvoy, and go get some full padded 3-step, 5-step drops. And in reality, I don't think this is a very good video. I felt terrible that day whenever I was doing it. And I think my high school highlights are at least a tad bit better, even though the film is bad in terms of who was recording it and how the film looks. But no, I mean, this got some looks, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily the greatest stuff in the world. I mean, nice little zip on the ball a little bit, but I've gotten so much better since then.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we just talked about, this was before college, so I mean, this is a guy senior high school, right? And you know, basically, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, I would like to say that there's a huge jump from high school coaching to college coaching.
Oh yeah, there definitely is.
Quarterback development. So I mean, I can imagine that, granted, this was, 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago at this point, right?
Yeah. So actually, I think it is. I think it's 6 years ago on the dot now, because probably would have recorded this back. I think we recorded this in January of 2016. So
there you go. So
yeah,
I mean, you've probably done a lot of growing since then. I mean, especially with the higher level of coaching that you've received as well during that time.
Oh yeah, I mean, and at the time, Sean McAvoy is now a big name, or one of the big names now, because he's paired up with Quincy Avery and stuff. And I worked with them for about 5 years, and I mean, he's a big guy now, and I mean, I'm happy for him, even though we'll get into it maybe a little bit later. But the relationship between me, Quincy, and Sean maybe didn't work out or end in the greatest way. But no, he's a good coach.
I was gonna say that's unfortunate, but you can't get along with everybody at sometimes.
Exactly.
Unfortunately. So to backtrack just a little bit, did you say Brandon Rolfe?
Yeah, Brandon Rolfe. Yeah, he's one of my receivers over at Texas-Wesleyan. He's still in college now, and he's in due for a amazing senior season. So with Collier Ricks. So those are two names to keep an eye on for this next college football season for sure.
Okay, I was gonna say I've heard that name somewhere before.
And yeah, he was a freshman All-American in the Sooner Athletic Conference and the NAI, and second. I think he was second team All-NAI his freshman year at Wesleyan.
Okay,
so he was a treat to throw to. Collier, same thing. And they've got a great quarterback in Dalton Dale too, and they're going to light it up even more this year.
Absolutely. So getting back to the questions, during college you played in a total of 21 games, putting up 2,869 passing yards, 26 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, and you added 484 rushing yards and another 6 rushing touchdowns. But as we kind of talked about a little bit before, you had a very interesting run where you were kind of yo-yoed in and out of the lineup from starter to scout team and back again. Can you elaborate on what kind of caused this at the time and basically how you dealt with all of that?
Yeah, I mean, so when we started the football program, we ran one offense. So we had a offensive coordinator who's now a O-line coach over at one of our conference rivals in Langston, and Coach Powell. And he wanted to legitimately hand us an NFL playbook and say, hey, college kids, we're running this. And I loved it as a quarterback because I'm sitting here saying, okay, here's my chance to learn an 800, 900-page NFL playbook and go about it. But we just never really gelled with that offense, and I believe we averaged 9 points a game that entire season. which was not very good. So Coach Powell ended up getting fired that first year. First time first-year coaches or first-year offensive coordinator and first-year programs getting fired. But no, I mean, that year was kind of in and out because it was just a whole quarterback rotation. We ended up playing like 5 guys that year. And so kind of got some playing time learning college football, put up some decent numbers, whatever. And then sophomore year, our wide receivers coach, who was a GA at TCU, came on over. And his name's Coach Kyle Cox, great offensive coordinator, ran the air raid offense, fell in love with that offense and really kind of took hold of it. So that redshirt sophomore year, got some good playing time. But that's also kind of when Donovan Isom transferred in. So the job was handed to him as the 6'5", 270-pound beast he is. Kind of took the job, and the time I had was the garbage time stuff. And then whenever he got hurt because he broke his tailbone. So, I mean, for me, it was humbling at times to be told like, hey, you're going to be traveling. You're a part of the team. You're a backup, but you're scout team now. And I remember driving home from Farrington Field one day in tears, kind of like I lost my job, my career's over, whatever. But had to kind of sit back and say, whoa, hold on. No, my career's not over. I'm just being demoted to scout team. And in reality, I use that as take the mindset shift and reframe things is one thing I've learned from Tom House. But in a way, I kind of did that before I knew Tom and reframed it to saying, hey, it's an opportunity to go get our defense ready to go play some really good football teams every Saturday. And so whether it was carving up Damian on defense every single day in practice or like Dylan Petway, our linebacker, he's coming out this next year. He should be an NFL draft guy too. But no, I mean, being able to carve up guys on defense and really make them better, which kind of helped sharpen my skills. And so for me, if it wasn't for scout team, like I don't think I would have the professional career that I have today. It developed me. It created an even more humble, hardworking mindset that kind of allowed me to kind of ascend back up and have a good end of the college career and kind of yo-yo back and forth it, but at least do well when I would be in garbage time and then do really well in the times that I would start. Love scout team. And the thing is, like, I even did it when I was starting to, towards the end of my career. And then obviously the COVID pandemic kind of ruined the real chances of having a true redshirt senior year and all that. But no, I mean, I love scout team. I don't think guys should look down upon it. It made me who I am now, and it's continuing to mold and develop me even to this day. The things that I learned on scout team. So.
Absolutely. So you kind of just alluded to it. Basically midway through your redshirt junior year, COVID hit. I think it was like December of 2019 when we really started hearing about it. And then ultimately, I think by February of 2020, everything started kind of shutting down. It was declared a pandemic. When you first all started seeing this happening, did you ever expect it to affect your senior season at all?
Yeah. So for me, I really hadn't heard of the COVID pandemic until kind of that week that it shocked college basketball and started canceling everything. And so for me, it was a little more scary because at the time, my mom and sister were on a study abroad trip in Italy. And so I remember having Donovan had just graduated. I just graduated with my bachelor's that December of 2019 because I had a plan going into college of I'm going to do whatever I can, whether it's 18 hours and then 6 hours in the summer at Georgia State University, that I'm going to graduate in the December semester. In December, to where like when I pursue the NFL, I've already got my degrees and I'm not like some guys that still have a semester left of school or a year left of school because they declare for the draft and then they never touch school again. And then they're screwed when their career flakes in a year or two. And in a way that plan kind of ended up screwing me a little bit. But no, so I just graduated, Donovan had graduated and Donovan was going to be 100% gone. And I'm like, all right, the job's mine. Like, yeah, I'm still going to have to compete with 2 other guys because Dalton was a freshman then, and he's very talented. We had another guy, Avery Childs, another kind of similar guy to me. I was a little more athletic, but just kind of Texas gunslinger kind of guy, old country boy. And so we were going to go in, battle for it, but I knew I had the job with the work ethic that I'd put in and all that. So was having amazing 7-on-7s and ended up going on spring break, going home to spring break and was just chilling out training and realizing like, hey, like this is going to be a big spring semester. And then I go back to school for 2 days and boom, there goes that college basketball tournament getting canceled. And I'm sitting here like, okay, like what's going on? And then school's saying like, you got to get out. And then I'm trying to figure out if my mom and sister are even going to be able to get home from Italy. And if they are going to get home from Italy, like, are they going to be safe? Are they going to be good? Like what's happening? And so I end up packing up everything. We move home, go virtual. But fortunately for me, like since I'd already started the master's program, Texas-Wesleyan's MBA program was 100% online anyway. So it never affected like any of the schooling that I had when everybody else was having to transition to online. Like I was 100% online anyway. But no, so like I moved back home to Atlanta and we're doing like online workout drills and people are saying, oh, it's only going to be 2 weeks or it's only going to be 4 weeks or it's only going to be a month. And then it just continued to kind of stockpile. And I'm like, okay, are we ever going to like have spring football? And then they're like, oh no, spring's canceled. Take the summer. We're expecting it to kind of die down in the summer and then we'll be back. Even if you have to wear a mask, like we'll be back. We're playing a college football season. But as things started to develop, COVID obviously got worse over the summer. And we're like, okay, no, I'm about to lose like my redshirt senior year here. Like, and I specifically like didn't take senior pictures and things like that year before because I wanted to stick it to my OC saying, no, I'm coming back next year, whether you like it or not. So I'm not taking these senior pictures. And in reality, I kind of hate it because never got those. So never got those green screen nice pictures. So Texas-Wesleyan, if you're watching, need to invite me back. Let me put on those nice powder blues that Damien got to wear because they weren't there when I was there. But no. So ended up coming back. We had COVID protocols to get through everything, but the conference made a weird decision that nobody else made. Most conferences were saying, okay, we're going to play a spring season. And I'm thinking, okay, like I could do a spring season, even though I'm set to graduate with my MBA in January. Like we'll see what happens. Like I could do that. And then they decide, okay, no, we're going to play 3 games in the fall, 6 games in the spring. And I'm like, okay, that's even better. Like I can play 3 games and then make the decision. Am I declaring for the 2021 NFL draft, or am I going to take another year and wait till the 2022 draft? And then just end up having like 6 months off or whatever. Or no, a bit more, be like whole year off. And so I decided like, hey, I'm going to go in and see what these first 3 games have. Well, I end up going through and a roommate ends up getting COVID and then I get COVID just by being his roommate. And so in October, right before we were going to play our first game of the season, I get COVID and missed that first game. But then luckily was able to get back for the second game against Arizona Christian and played my last ever career game there because we had a defensive lineman have COVID in the game and it canceled our third game. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm good. So I made the decision, like once I graduated, I'm coming back. And we're going to run this thing. I'm going to go play in these 6 games. And I was talking to my coaches like, hey, my scholarship's coming to an end. Like, but I'm not taking any classes. So can you just roll a scholarship to handle room and board? And they're telling me yes. So I go home for winter break thinking, okay, I'm coming back. I'm training. Like we got 6 more games. Like, and so I come back, don't declare for the NFL draft or anything, come back to school thinking I'm going to play in these games. And then I'm being told by my offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator that, hey, like due to budget cuts with COVID, we can't pay for room and board anymore. So you're going to have to pay for the housing and you're going to have to pay for the meal plan. And I'm like, okay, well, like I already went to Panera like 3 times a week anyway. So let me try to cut the bill of the meal plan. So I'm talking to people around campus, trying to cut the meal plan, but then I need proof of being a full-time student to do that, and because I'm rooming in the housing and all that. And it ends up this kind of long, windy road leads me to the athletic director contacting me and saying, hey, like, I know your coach has told you this, you could come back and play without taking a single credit hour, but it's come to my attention that you actually can't. Like, you've got to take minimum 1 credit hour. And so I already had 2 degrees, and I had to make the tough decision where I ended up walking up to the coach's office and crying in their arms kind of thing as I told my goodbyes. But 2 weeks into the semester in that January, I had to make the decision saying, hey, like, I especially because of budget cuts and you're pulling scholarship because I'd already graduated and all this other kind of stuff. Like, I can't afford to do this, especially just to take like an underwater marble stacking class that isn't going to do anything when I got 2 degrees. Like, and so had to make the difficult decision to cut the college career there. And in hindsight, it ended up being the best decision I could make. Because yes, I ended up missing the NFL draft deadline. So I wasn't an official draft prospect for the 2021 draft. Although be it, I would have then been an undrafted free agent and could sign anywhere. But I mean, what ended up happening was Wesleyan never even played those 6 games. COVID canceled all of them. And so I would have never ended up really having a redshirt senior year anyway if I would have stayed, and it would have pushed me back a whole year anyway, because then I wouldn't have had the professional film that I've gotten or the opportunities that I've had over 2021 if I wouldn't have turned pro. And so God kind of worked those things out in my favor to where even though it maybe doesn't look like the best solution, it ended up working out in my favor. To where even though I made the difficult decision to leave Texas-Wesleyan, like it's worked out. And so it was a decision that I didn't want to make. I wanted to be a Ram and finish off what I started, and I kind of felt like it was taken from me. But no, I mean, I can't complain with how it ended because it all ended the way that it needed to. And I'm still an extremely proud alumni. Try to be back as much as I humanly possibly can. And especially once funding of an NFL contract comes through, I'll definitely kind of help them out too, like I said, with Creekside, and help them in any way that I possibly can, whether it's some quarterback coaching or just kind of being around campus and passing off my knowledge and being a guy that kids in that program could look up to. I mean, hey, like when I left the program, I was told by the offensive coordinator and head coach that now Damien could probably tell you better if they actually kept the award. So all they did was tell me that it was created in my honor, but they were creating something called the Arth Rams Award in my honor because of the perseverance that I showed through my college career, and that they were going to give that to every year to some guy who showed that perseverance of no matter how tough things got, that they would keep fighting. And so we had an acronym there that for Rams, which was obviously our mascot, but it standed for respect, accountability, mentality, sacrifice. And so what guy each year would show those quality traits, and they'd be awarded the Arth Rams Award. So it could have just been a pipe dream that they told me to kind of honor me, and then they never gave it out. But I'm sticking with it that I was told it was being created, so that award better still be there. But
awesome. I would do the same. I would totally do the same. So correct me if I'm wrong, but 2020, as you mentioned, is when you started getting your professional film out there. Was that with the Hub camp?
Yeah. So, so 2021 was when I was first in Hub. So it was July of 2021. That was my first Hub camp. So all this stuff kind of, yeah. So that one was obviously then the announcement for the March 2022 one that I ended up going to.
I saw Hub Football 2020, and I thought it was for the 2020 season. Dang.
Yeah, no, that's just their Twitter tag. Yeah. Once I turned professional, I mean, obviously, I had a bunch of my practice film because it was hard to get my game film from the coaches because the offense and stuff they ran, coaches were kind of heavy sticklers of like, hey, we don't need coaches seeing what we run. So unfortunately, all my college career highlights you'll find on YouTube, they're still great. They're still NFL quality throws, but they're all scrimmage highlights and things like that. So it's not just like base practice stuff, but it is like scrimmage and maybe some of the scout team stuff too. But all that, I was getting hit all the time on scout team. So I think that should still count. But no, I mean, where was I going with that? The college career was good, but no, getting to Hub, that film kind of got me into Hub in July of 2021, which kind of helped reignite and re-spark some true NFL interest, where I thought I was going to really truly be in a camp that last football season. But obviously in the timeline, right once I left college, was fortunate enough to be invited to the National Scouting Combine, which happened the same time in Indianapolis, the same time as the NFL Combine. Now, granted, that was the year that the Combine was 100% online, like it was all virtual. So scouts were there, but kind of limited. And then obviously I was playing an arena season at the time too, because when I moved home, I looked for another team to kind of get more professional film, since I had just been hit with the bomb of your college career is over and no, we're not going to give you the film. And I was already pulled off huddle. So
Gotcha. Speaking of which, I got some of those highlights, so we'll play those because those are a little bit more impressive, I think. This might have some music. Oh, there it is.
yeah, you can mute that because don't want you to get copyrighted.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, I didn't on my YouTube channel, but
I'm not worried about it. It was a good song. Good song pick.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Concerned. But anyway, I think it's very interesting to see how your career's panned out. I was not aware of the fact that it was actually at the same time that you were playing in the arena season and doing the hub camp and the National Scouting Combine and all of that at the same time. That's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, so the way everything kind of went was like, I believe I signed with the Peach State Cats in February of 2021, when obviously I'd left Texas-Wesleyan in January of 2021. And obviously we didn't have our first game till late March of 2021, but ended up being invited to the National Scouting Combine, and then that was early March. So it was kind of like I signed with the team. I'm going through like an elongated month training camp with the team, but then I'm leaving to go to Indianapolis to go work out for NFL, CFL scouts there, and whatever arena and rugby scouts they have there too. And I think they've even got some like Olympic scouts for a luge team or something there. But yeah, I mean, so doing all that at the same time that I was getting ready to go play a season with these boys, and found some pretty good friends on the team too. But I was fortunate enough to kind of have the connection of a guy who, a defensive back who I played against in college. His name's Antonio Chapman. He's playing with the team in the CIF right now, the Rapid City Marshals. But he ended up playing on this team. He went to Texas College, almost went to Texas-Wesleyan, and that's how I ended up finding him. And he kind of helped put me on with the team, or at least just finding him because it's a team he was already signed for. And then Coach James Moreland, who's now the owner of the team, definitely wanted me. And it was a great partnership for the 4 games I was there, and loved the organization. It's a good team. They definitely need to continue moving up the arena ladder because it's a well-run organization for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely good to hear that they were well run. It definitely looks like, not to put words in your mouth, but the league itself has a little bit of growth to do as well. But hey, you got on the football field, you got to put tape out there, and impressive tape at that. I mean, you actually ended up leading the league in passing yards and touchdowns, correct?
Yeah, and it was only in 4 games in a 10-game season. It kind of surprised me at the end because obviously I left the team after the 4th game of the season and to pursue other opportunities that arose. But no, I mean it. It kind of surprised me, and then got some silverware from it too. But no, I mean, great team, great organization, and Coach Moreland's got the boys pretty good in their arena season right now too. They did move up in league. Because this league that I ended up playing in, I think ended up dropping out of the face of existence. So they're in a better league now, and then hopefully they'll continue rising up the ladder, and maybe IFL someday so Georgia can have another IFL team again.
That would be awesome. IFL is kind of the cream of the crop as far as I'm concerned, is in the arena world at this point. So at what point did you start working with Tom House, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, so right in this same kind of time that I was just signing with the Peach State Cats and going to the National Scouting Combine, that I was reached out to saying, hey, like, you want to be an NFL quarterback, like, come work with Tom House. I mean, and funny, like, when I grew up, I was a big fan of Tim Tebow and And then obviously being a Falcons fan, seeing Matt Ryan, and then even though I hated Brady, like seeing Brady as one of the names. And for me, I kind of compare very similarly to Drew Brees, and seeing the laundry list of names, including all those names that I just mentioned, and Alex Smith being another one that that Tom House has worked with and continues to work with during their playing careers, and everything he's done in the baseball and football world. It was just kind of the pull of like, okay, this guy is wanting to work with me, and I can get in and learn from him and work with his regional national pitching scouts like Robert Ambrose, who's out of Peachtree City. He's kind of the national pitching and national football right-hand man, and one of my closer guys too. But everyone on that staff is become extremely close to me. But whether it's Tom or Dean Duxakis or Robert Ambrose or any of the crew. I mean, I could go on and on and on about all the names, but no, I mean, so it's been about a year and 2 or 3 months now that I've worked with Tom directly, and whether it's indirectly through some of his coaches or directly at his camps, or talking to him via text or over the phone. And I mean, the guy is a legend in his own right. And the first time I was ever sitting at a Waffle House in front of him, I'm over here shaking, holding a fork, like, oh, this guy wasn't like an Atlanta Braves pitcher. He's the guy who caught Hank Aaron's like home run ball that like everyone still talks about. And, I mean, this dude's a legend, and he was like an amazing Rangers pitching coach. And then he taught Nolan Ryan how to throw a football. He didn't teach him how to throw a football, but he had a training regimen where he'd throw a football and made baseball a different game because of it. Almost every amazing pitcher that's ever pitched in baseball, Tom House had a part of, and then got into football. And the best two guys that's probably ever played the game, no offense, Peyton Manning, but two of the most amazing quarterbacks that have ever played the game, and Brady and Brees, work with him. I need to be a part of that. And then at the same time, I was looking for new quarterback trainers because, as I mentioned, I worked with QB Takeover and Quincy Avery and Sean McAvoy for 5 years of like a junior, senior year of high school into kind of college. And things just didn't work out because I wasn't the big Division I guy, first round draft prospect. But I mean, still love those guys too. I don't hold grudges at all. So they've got a great organization. But yeah, so I was looking for new quarterback trainers and people how to throw football and take my game to another level. And Tom and his entire process of doing things, whether it was the biomechanics of how to truly throw a football and stay healthy and throw hard easy, to the dieting and nutrition that you see with Tom Brady's TB12 stuff, because that's all. I mean, hate to break it to you, TB12 fans, but he stole it all from Tom. Tom House, that is. He just intensified it even more to make sure he's not getting inflammation, like with the nightshades and strawberries and sugar and things like that. But no, I mean, the nutrition and sleep part, and I mean, the mental aspect of it, and reframing things, and how to get in the zone, stay in the zone. Like there's this 4 massive quadrants of things that improve your performance, and even how dominant your eyes are. Whether you're right eye dominant, left eye dominant, some of the greats like Drew Brees are cross eye dominant, where both eyes are just as strong as the other, which allows them to read defenses. And that's something that I'm definitely working on right now, to make both eyes as dominant as possible, so I can kill anybody with how I read the defense and make myself even faster and effective, even though that's one of my calling cards as a quarterback. But no, that was the pool of Tom. And just over time, I started meeting plenty of guys that are in the program, whether it's Major League Baseball pitchers or minor league baseball pitchers or NFL quarterbacks or other guys, and start to realize that, hey, like, yeah, I may not be in the NFL yet, but I'm just as talented at it as every single one of those quarterbacks or pitchers. I'm throwing the same miles per hour as they are. I'm running just as fast as they are. And they're normal guys too. And then growing a relationship with Tom to where I feel like he's my grandfather, because I don't have any living grandparents remaining on my side. Now, obviously, I consider like my girlfriend's grandparents kind of family now too. But in terms of my immediate grandparents, I've only got a grandma left, and so Tom's kind of become my de facto grandparent. And love him. He's a mentor, and next time I see him, he's going to smack me with a 2x4 pole if I can't get one of my feet in 0.17 of a second. So Tom, I've definitely fixed it, so you don't have to smack me with a 2x4. But But no, I mean, whether it's Robert Ambrose, who I spend even more time with than even Tom sometimes, because he's obviously in my area when I'm in Atlanta, and what I've learned from him and all the crew at National Pitching. And so, if any of you are quarterbacks out there listening and want to get better at throwing a football and staying healthy, shameless little plug here. Go check out National Pitching and find a national pitching coach near you. Yeah, it's National Pitching because they're mainly baseball, but they still do quarterback training too, and you'll train with the pitchers. And in reality, it's better for you. And the way we do training is all band based. You're not lifting heavy weights anymore, and it's healthier for you and more explosive. But the thing is, you work with baseball players, hockey players, quarterbacks. And any rotational athlete, tennis players, and most of your training is not going to be throwing a football, and you're still going to get better at throwing a football without touching one. And see, that's another name too, Andrew Luck. When Andrew Luck had his whole shoulder issue stuff, where did they go? Tom House. To teach him how to rethrow a football when his arm was legitly the size of a ring because of all the muscle loss that he had from recovery. And so Tom House does wonders, and it's amazing to see how he's even fighting Parkinson's too at his mid-70s age, and how all he's got is just a little bit of a shake, and then he'll need to rest every once in a while. Like, he's just a living legend, and I'm fortunate and blessed to have him in my life, and be able to have his phone number and be able to call him whenever I need him. And even though it may take a year for him to respond on Twitter or Instagram or even a text message sometimes. I mean, it's amazing to have him in my corner, and I'm extremely blessed to have Tom, because I would have never thought in my wildest dreams that someone like Tom would want to work with me or want to touch me. Like, I was being told that I wasn't good enough by many quarterback coaches that I've had, but to have someone of Tom's pedigree say, no, you project to the NFL and these guys don't know what they're talking about. Like, I'm going to prove to you that you're an NFL quarterback. And that belief in me is made me want to stay in the family the rest of my life. Like, whether I'm an NFL quarterback for 25 years, an NFL quarterback for one season, or never touch a football field again. Like, I'm definitely like going to be a national pitching coach, whether it's on the side as an NFL quarterback or a full-time job, whatever. Like, I'm going to be a national pitching coach, coaching quarterbacks, coaching pitchers. Heck, even learning some hockey and coaching hockey, for the rest of my life, like, just because of all the things that they've done for me.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm a firm believer that if you want to be the best, you train with the best. And I don't think anybody's arguing that Tom House is the best in the business.
Heck, he's got a hand in, even though it's more Adam DeVrow's side, because Tom sold a lot of the football stuff. Adam Dato. He sold a lot of the football stuff to Adam Dato and 3DQB. So that's kind of where all the big NFL quarterbacks go to now. But it's still all Tom stuff. So like Jalen kind of left Quincy to go over to Dato and things like that too. So, I mean, you're seeing it all over the place. Every time you see a quarterback holding up a weighted ball like this, or holding the football and doing this stuff, Carson Wentz, you name it, like Bryce Young, they're all Tom House guys. And the NFL's starting to see that we're the real deal. Arena hasn't seen it yet. I've definitely had my fair share of looks and saying, okay, you're stupid. Like, I know how to throw a football. You don't. Like, listen to me. From many arena coaches, whether it's teams I've played for, teams I haven't played for, that I've talked to. But the NFL and CFL game gets it, and they're starting to learn it even more. That Tom's a real deal, and he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, you see all the Eagles gear behind me. Our starting quarterback's training with Tom House's guys right now. So, yeah. I mean, he's trying to improve his accuracy, his footwork, and stuff like that. And once again, you go to the best. I mean, Drew Brees and Tom Brady are some of the most accurate quarterbacks ever to play the game. And they trained with Tom House, like you said. And I definitely see the similarities between you and Drew Brees. I mean, beyond just the height. I mean, you guys, obviously, you guys are spitting images athletically of each other. But, yeah, I mean, game-wise, I mean, your completion percentage is above 70 often. So, I mean, it definitely makes sense. You compare quite a bit with Drew Brees. It makes perfect sense there. So watching your FCF workout film pointed out that you have a very similar build and play style to Drew Brees, like I just mentioned. Is there anyone else on the professional level or otherwise you tried to model your game after as you were growing as an athlete?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, like I kind of started off kind of as a Georgia Bulldog fan in terms of watching college football and no, like Aaron Murray was truly the first guy that I looked up to, and I was like, no, this dude looks like me. He's my height, my weight. Like he's playing at the University of Georgia. Only thing that he's got wrong with him is he's from Tampa, Florida. Like, because us Georgians, we don't like Floridans or Floridians as they call them. But no, I mean, Aaron Murray was someone like that. I was like, all right, no, I've got to be him. I've got to relive his career. Now, granted, I was born on June 11th, so 11's kind of always been my lucky number. And hey, it was Aaron Murray's number 2. So it's kind of like I wanted to be the reincarnation of Aaron Murray in a way. And I was fortunate enough to meet him once at one of his camps he did when he first turned pro and right before he got drafted by the Chiefs. And unfortunately, with all the connections that I've made to some really good, talented quarterbacks that I know now, and Aaron Murray's not one of them. So if anybody out there that's listening knows Aaron Murray personally and wants to get with him, I'd love to. I'd be fangirling, even though like I know guys like Jalen Hurts or Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace to him, and Malik, and I mean Sam Ellinger and Mac Jones, and those. I mean, like the list could go on of guys that I've met or know now that I didn't feel like starstruck with. But Aaron Murray would be one that I'd probably still be starstruck, even though his career's flaked out, unfortunately. But no, I mean, Aaron Murray, I feel like it's a really good comparison because obviously he was a little more athletic than Drew, but essentially another Drew Brees. And I mean, I grew up a Falcons fan, but I've always kind of idolized Drew. But then the mindset and the chip on your shoulder of Brady, I kind of really compare to now. But Baker Mayfield's another one, height, weight, mindset too. I mean, I think Baker still deserves a shot in the NFL as a starter. I think he played really well last year as injured as he was. And so those are just a couple guys. I mean, Peyton Manning's another, just because I want to be mentally better than anybody on the field and take preparation to a whole nother level. But that's just kind of a small list. But again, like I became a Minnesota Vikings fan because of my dad. So Brett Favre was one of my first true experiences of football. And so Brett Favre's always going to be one that I've wanted to model my game after. Love his little quote where he's like, I'm going to wow you, whether it's a good wow or a bad wow, I'm going to wow. And so, I mean, those are just a couple guys.
That is so true.
No, I mean, if I were to put it down to 2 guys, like I feel like I'm an Aaron Murray if his NFL career pans out. And then hopefully I can live up to the Brees standard and maybe even beat Brees. So
those are large shoes to fill. I mean, I believe he holds the NFL record for career completion percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, unfortunately, Brady will probably beat him, but yeah, it's a good mark to aim for.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll be a surprise if there's no record Brady doesn't hold by the time he retires at this point.
Definitely.
But speaking of accuracy and whatnot, here's another one of your highlights. This is from your FCF tryout. This is kind of an interesting one. It was kind of funny. It seemed like that you guys couldn't find a receiver that wanted to catch a pass or something.
Yeah, no. So backstory behind this was all the receivers were still running 40s.
Oh, okay.
They were still in testing. Like the quarterback and running back group was already done, and so they just started the media broadcast. Which, by the way, like if you've never been to a fan controlled football league tryout and you're a football player, it's one of the most fun things that I've ever had. Now, granted, I'm a little butthurt that since I was the best quarterback at that tryout and I, for whatever reason, wasn't signed. Still a little butthurt on that one because I know they did sign one quarterback out of that camp, and he was the number 2 guy there, Dalton Oliver. But he's a friend of mine now too. Ended up taking him to the airport that day to get him back to Kentucky. But so best of luck to him. Hope he gets drafted to a good team this week and starts balling out because he's a good kid. As well, and he's going to make a name for himself in the FCF. But no, I mean, the way they ran the tryout, it was extremely fun. And No, I mean, I felt like I put on a true showcase of what I could do with when the lights are brightest. Like destroying was there. Ended up making some good plays around him. Ended up coining the nickname Arth Vader, which I'm going to definitely trademark now and hopefully I get famous enough to where I can start pulling out some T-shirts and merch, because I grew up a massive Star Wars fan anyway. And so just to really kind of put together the Arth Vader stuff, I need to change my Twitter bio, or not bio, but Twitter picture to have me running out of the tunnel and have someone Photoshop the red lightsaber and all. I mean,
Oh, definitely.
all the media outtakes there is going to be endless. But so stay tuned to that. But no, I mean, I enjoyed that FCF tryout and definitely showcased accuracy and a little bit of arm strength too, but obviously fields and arena size. So you can only see so much. And even in that clip there, they're just telling us to go throw it on the sideline in a very condensed area just for some media and fans to kind of see and get introduced to people. So they kind of put you in kind of a bad situation because it was only like a 5-yard kind of like a 5-yard split between the sideline and you. And it's hard to put the ball right on that pinpoint corner in that kind of tight of a window with the receiver you've never even met before ever that pulled his hamstring over running a 40 and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go out and do it because it's on TV.
See, that's kind of what I was wondering. I was like, man, he's not really running full speed here. I wonder what happened, or like why he's kind of slow playing this. And then that makes sense. If he pulled his hammy, that it definitely makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Who was that, by the way? Do you know his name?
Honestly, I don't even know, because I think he pulled his hamstring bad enough to where he didn't even have a single rep in the FCF tryout. Like he ran the 40s in the first part and did all the drills and then left. And then plus I was kind of down in the section, because the way they kind of do the tryouts is if you're a guy that they truly see in the league and they want fans to get looks at, you're down in the small little section of only like 10 or 15 guys where you're doing those one-on-one competitions of the highlights that I posted. So there was still like another 200 guys on the other side of the field that are doing like one-on-one, or that are doing like 4v4 with 4 quarterbacks throwing, because they looked at 3 of us quarterbacks and say, hey, like you guys are ones we're going to want to sign. And so like they kind of split things up. And so we had DBs, receivers who made a name for themselves over on the other side of the field come over and match up against each other, and fans would vote like, are they good enough to stay, or do they need to go back, and they're done. And then obviously they voted on quarterbacks too. So I was fortunate enough to stay. I definitely feel like I was the best guy out there. I mean, Dalton made some great plays too. But I mean, we had some great DBs. Darius Dokes, he's actually in the league now. I mean, Tyus Boykin, there's a highlight you may pull up later of me throwing to Tyus Boykin, and the announcer said, hey, they really liked each other. They're linking up on LinkedIn or something. And then I throw like a back shoulder fade, like pinpoint, right over the DB's face, and back shoulder it right into Tyus's hands. And he's in the league now too, with the FCF. And so, no, I mean, I was in the group of the guys that all got signed. And had an amazing tryout, and had a lot of fun too. And funny enough, that was my last day in Georgia too. That very next morning, I was on the road to hit the road to get to Texas, to then get to Arizona for training camp with the Sugar Skulls. So I was hoping to get picked up out of there, so I didn't have to make the 25-hour drive to Tucson.
Wow, that's crazy. That's 25 hours. That's insane. So outside of Tom House and a couple other guys with the pitching academy that you mentioned, are there any coaches that stand out throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have had coaches that have believed in me through the years. So Coach Johnny Gilbert at Creekside Christian Academy, he's teaching and coaching down in South Georgia now. He was one of my biggest supporters throughout my high school career, but I mean, Coach Kelvin White and Andre Wise, who are still in charge of TxWes to this day. I think Coach White isn't anymore. He's kind of doing his thing, raising a family. But no, I mean, those were coaches that believed in me, whether it was at Dutchtown High School, then pulling me into their recruiting agency, and then moving forward into the college career. Like, yeah, me and Coach Cox kind of had some differences at times, which affected playing time. But he was still a supporter of me off the field, and helped me develop so much. And then as I turned pro, the guys over at APEC DFW, I know I'm not there a ton just because I'm not here in Fort Worth all that much. But Taylor and Mason and Bobby Strope and the guys over there have done wonders to help, even if it's just out from outsider view, because I'm not there all the time, to kind of help me build the body to be explosive and take NFL hits and what it's like to continue to build on the Tom House stuff to create the healthy body. So the guys over at Hub for constantly inviting me back every time I apply, because Hub Camp's an invite only camp that the only way you get in is if you're one of the 60 they invite, or in my case, one of the 4 that they like for that camp. And so, because they only invite 4 Qs a camp. So, I mean, I've had multiple people that, yes, I've been doubted a lot, but I've had multiple people take interest too, in helping me try to live out this dream. And I'm fortunate for every single one of them, whether it's my amazing girlfriend, Allie, or my amazing family back at home, or just all the people along the way. If you've been there, like my mentor, Larry Lawrence, he was a youth pastor of mine. He's definitely going to be in my wedding as the officiant and things like that. Just so many people outside the football field, inside the football field, that have affected my life and impacted it so much that I'm forever indebted to them and everything they've taught me and continue to help me with. From a football standpoint, list could go on and on. But outside of football, same thing.
Absolutely. You don't get where you're at without a good support system, I don't think. So it definitely makes sense that you got a lot of people that you want to shout out there. On another note, after your playing career, what do you see yourself doing? Is it continuing with your company, A11 Performance? Is it with Tom House's company? Is it as a GM, like you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So, the goal really is to go be a GM. That's the number one after football career. I want to be a GM for a Major League Baseball or an NFL organization. Those are kind of my 2 main sports. In reality, don't take this as I don't love football, because I chose football as my career and I love it with everything. But baseball is still my number one. So I'm diehard Atlanta Braves fan. But no, if you can give me a team to go be a GM for, I'll go win you a championship, just like I'm trying to do as a player. But that's my desired goal, and that's why I got the degrees that I got. But at the same time, there's only 32 of those in the NFL and 30 in Major League Baseball. Coaching is definitely something that I've really kind of created a liking to. And then people have told me that I speak fairly well, and I know any kind of stick and ball sport, and I've got a good broadcasting voice. So maybe go be a Tony Romo or Drew Brees arc now, to where I'm go being an analyst on CBS or NBC or ESPN or whatever. So
Shady Sports Network.
yeah, Shady Sports Network. Yeah,
sorry, I had to throw that out there.
Exactly, we can go get the NFL license and broadcast Monday Night Football.
There you go.
Whatever. But no, the possibilities are endless. My whole goal for A11 Performance was really to kind of create my own personal brand, and the performance actually just kind of came in solely because someone had already trademarked A11 in terms of the website domain. Because for me, like Arth11 and JA11 didn't work well with the logo, because the logo I made myself. And I'm actually working on a little bit of a rebrand, retooling, because I like the logo, but I want it to kind of speak a little bit more to really try to see the symbolism of A and 11. So be on the lookout for that. But
absolutely.
But no, I kind of want to transition the A11 stuff to being a private quarterback training business like it has been. But obviously I kind of created it to be like an overall, like Justin Arth brand. Like, go to my website to check out social media posts, go to my website to check out the blog, or the blog series that I have called Motivation Mondays, or the YouTube stuff that I try to do on the side to take people in behind the scenes of being an arena quarterback or an NFL quarterback or CFL quarterback or whatever my football journey entails, and maybe some football IQ things, of breakdowns of NFL defenses, arena versus NFL or CFL versus NFL, like what's the differences? And kind of take people into the head of an NFL quarterback of like what it's like, or what do you need to know to be a good high school player. And so it kind of like your one-stop shop for everything Justin Arth. And so kind of have the idea and plan of making that kind of like TB12 and using some of Tom's stuff with his blessing, obviously, to kind of take some of the quarterback drills that I've learned through the years and continue to grow on that, to be able to not necessarily sell Tom House's package under my name, but be able to kind of add to it and direct people to Tom and national pitching for those needs. But everything's going to be based on what Tom does too, in my program. But be able to kind of create like that one-stop shop for everything me, whether it's you want private quarterback training, or you want to learn what my next step is, or see the journey this far, or check me out on YouTube or whatever. Like it just kind of everything. So obviously as a career, play as long as I possibly can, and then take one of those 3 avenues of coaching, whether it's private or coaching a team, and then or broadcasting, or obviously the GM goal. One of those 3 is an actual job. But then obviously like try to run my own brand, sell some t-shirts, sell some merch, and run a brand. So
Absolutely. Well, as soon as you get those Art Vader t-shirts out there, you let me know. I'll totally buy one. That is
definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, that's in the works. So graphic designers out there that are good with like t-shirt graphics. I got a really good graphics guy in Ben Gibson. His name's Moose, or nickname Moose, on the Moose Midnight Moose Midnight Network. So go check him out if anyone needs graphics. He's a good cost, good dude, and definitely really good graphics guy. So yeah, I'm getting into graphics myself, making some pretty good ones. But like that hub one you pulled up earlier, Moose made that one for me. So he's a pretty good guy. So
That's
definitely
awesome.
Go reach out to him.
I definitely will keep that in mind. I actually very recently had a player ask me if I knew anybody who made that stuff, and I was like, me? And you don't want me making them, trust me. So good luck, buddy. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was kind of one of those situations where I was like, dang, I should make connections in that world for that purpose.
Yep.
So definitely keep that in mind. So if you've watched any of my other interviews, you probably have seen this question coming. But if you were the offensive coordinator that had to pick a scheme or a specific offensive style to run for your strengths as a quarterback, what would it be and why?
Give me the air raid offense, no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, everything's so fast moving. Quarterback has to know pre-snap where you're going with the football for a lot of the things, because the whole point of the air raid offense is get the ball out of your hands and get the ball to the playmakers in space to allow them to do the work. As an offensive coordinator, for me, that's for me in my game, that's what works, even though definitely I can sit back in the pocket and decipher defenses, and I think I've proven that too. But as a play caller, it puts a quarterback in a good situation to be able to get the ball out of his hands, truly protect the football by the offensive line protection calls that you make pre-snap, deciphering what the defense is in pre-snap with motions, similar to kind of like your 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's of the world that do that to kind of get the tells of what defense are they in. Are they in cover 1? Are they going base cover 3? Or are they going 5 shell or 6 or whatever? And so, or 5 cloud, I should say, not 5 shell, but no. So, I mean, I think that would work perfectly. Now, obviously I spent 3.5 years in the air raid offense in college, and a lot of those schemes are starting to make their way into the NFL too. And so that's something that I know without really, I mean, I may need to learn new terminology with like the 49ers, but it's all the same concepts. And the Cardinals are definitely the big component of it right now. Like, because Cliff Kingsbury came straight from the air raid Sonny Cumbie system that my coaches came from, and Coach Cox and things like that. So, I mean, air raid is definitely no doubt what I'm going with offensively. Now, don't get me wrong. I still am traditional a little bit, like a quarterback to go under center. And even though I personally don't like doing it as much anymore, because I rarely had to do it until I got back to arena ball. So, I mean, the gun's the way the game's going. So why not run an air raid offense, get the ball out of your hands? And if you're running drop backs, full field progressions where you're going right to left or left to right, and keep the quarterback's eyes in certain situations where it's easy for him to make good reads. So that's the offense I'm running. We're going to go put up points just like in college. We wanted to average 45 a game. So I'll go one up Coach Cox and say, hey, my offenses are going to score 52 a game.
Oh, dang. There you go. Okay, interesting. So this is kind of a question that just came up as you were speaking. So forgive me that it was not one of the ones that I priorly arranged.
You're good.
we watched Peyton Manning try to adapt to an under center offense and from a shotgun scheme that he had run his entire career prior to this. He was kind of trying to adapt to that Shanahan scheme with Gary Kubiak as the head coach. Mm-hmm. And they ended up running with the pistol. What's your opinion on running the pistol?
Yeah, so for me, my sophomore year offense was that kind of Colin Kaepernick pistol offense. I mean, I have a year under my belt running it, and I like it too. I mean, I think if you still get a quarterback in the gun, I mean, one of kind of my underrated, I mean, unfortunately, the offenses I've kind of been in lately haven't allowed me to kind of show this often. But one of my bread and butters used to be and still is the kind of play action game. So I could throw really well on the run. And so it got a little bit of Russell Wilson to me in that respect. But obviously I'm not as shifty as Russ because he's definitely a difference maker in that aspect of the game. But no, I mean, be able to kind of run some read options to keep people honest, but real out of that pistol formation, but really kind of push and stretch your outside zones and then get play action fakes off that and rollouts to kind of either dump it off in the flat and on high-low reads with a crosser coming over top. And I mean, that is definitely something that would be in my playbook, even though it's not a air raid scheme. But I mean, it's a good way to include kind of that full house set that you see on like NCAA, where you've got the two fullbacks next to the quarterback and then running back in the pistol with some heavy formations. So in my offense, we're going gun pretty much almost exclusively, just because that's the way football is going. And I think you can still run power and stuff like that out of that. So
absolutely. Kind of interesting. I was expecting you to say something closer to the Shanahan scheme, actually, given the fact that you're fairly decent with rolling out and throwing on the run and handling the play action game.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, like, Shanahan's scheme is amazing. I mean, I've got some copies of some 49ers playbooks and Falcons playbooks of the times that Shanahan's there, and or at least a Shanahan type of disciple, whether it's Kubiak or one of those guys have been in those type of offenses. And no, I mean, absolutely love those offenses. But I'm someone who's played anything in a wing tee, like my 7th grade year, to being an under center pro I, to pistol spread, like that sophomore year, and then spread my junior, senior year of high school. And then I got to college back to a pro I, old fashioned NFL playbook, to then air raid. So like I've kind of done it all, and I can kind of adjust on the fly. And even having some marine experience at the IFL level and with the Peach State Cats, I mean, I've seen a lot of different things, a lot of different concepts, and I think it allows me to be moldable. I mean, because I know a lot of things, and a lot of it's just, all right, I know this, or I know this, or I know this concept. Just what's your terminology for it?
Absolutely. I could definitely see that. It seems like more often than not, playbooks are mostly terminology. A lot of coaches, I mean, at this point, everybody's thought up every play that could possibly have been dreamed up at some point or another.
Yeah.
So earlier this week, I'm going to play a quick highlight. You worked out with Caleb Egan's, a guy I actually just interviewed on Tuesday, I think it was. So a couple days ago. And he how did that whole relationship come about? I mean, other than the Texas connection.
Yeah. So so for him, we're both represented by the sports agency. So Black Diamond, sports marketing and PR firm. And so he's another guy represented by our agency. And obviously when he's in the area, we're definitely going to get some work in. And he's a very good guy to throw to. As you kind of see here, runs really crisp routes. I mean, again, appreciate Coach Collins over at J.J. Pierce High School for allowing us to have that facility. That's another connection that Tom House has kind kind of brought me. So got a nice little indoor facility in Dallas to go to whenever I want. But no, so Caleb is another guy that's represented by the same sports agency as I am. And funny enough, he's from a very small town of Jewett, Texas. And believe it or not, there was a volleyball player that I was friends with in college that was from Jewett, Texas, and was in high school. And so the thing is, it's like, all right, then we were talking like, oh, you know her? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Like, yeah, I was friends with her. Oh, I was friends with her too. Okay. Yeah. We got a mutual connection. We never even knew it. So, I mean, it was just kind of a thing where we're crossing paths at the perfect time of he needs quarterbacks to throw with him. I need receivers to throw to. Because some guys can be flaky every once in a while, and plus, like a lot of the NFL caliber guys right now are that aren't in the NFL. They're playing arena seasons, so some guys are in town, some guys aren't, and it's going to be sketchy sometimes when you get a guy or don't get a guy. So it's good that he's in town and we're getting work in. I mean, that clip was just from yesterday. We've definitely got more clips on my GoPro that I need to get edited and uploaded to YouTube. And then again, I'm backloaded on like 8 or 9 vlog videos I need to get posted to YouTube too. So
I know how that goes.
Yeah. So, man. I mean, he's a great receiver. I mean, but the list of NFL caliber and CFL caliber receivers, whether it's guys that have been in the league for a while or should be in the league or whatever. I mean, the list could go on, and I could forget guys that I have worked out with, but I mean, just to name a few, to save you on the question here, since we're talking about it. I mean, Trinity Benson's a guy who's playing with the Denver Broncos or now Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I was going to say he was traded.
Is definitely one. I mean, obviously going back to the college realm of Brandon Rolfe, Collier Ricks, they both are guys that should, even though they're NAIA guys, and Collier's a kind of bigger body jump ball receiver, and Rolfe is a kind of shorter speedster. They're both NFL talent guys, should definitely be there. But no, I mean, I've had some workouts with Des Bryant before. I mean, so Zach Farrar, he's another guy that went to Auburn, had a different crazy college career, and now he's got some CFL interest going his way now, and some NFL teams on the horizon. I mean, those are just guys that I've worked out with fairly recently, but the list could go on. And Ari Wirtz at Georgia State. And I mean, Darius Geis, now granted that was at Hub Camp and he's a running back, but another guy that I've kind of worked out with. And I mean, there's a lot of connections that can be made at a lot of these different things that you end up finding guys when you're in this city or that city. But no, I mean, if I were to name names of every guy I've worked out with, we're probably sitting here another 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I've already taken up quite a bit of your time, so I'm going to try and speed through.
Oh, you're good. Take as much time as you need.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Normally the interviews do not run 2 hours. I just had so much I wanted to ask you over everything. And it just, obviously you saw the list. It was very long. I've already skipped like probably 6 or 7 questions on the list.
Oh yeah.
So, at the beginning of 2022, you kind of saw this, like, it almost seems like a sudden burst of a bunch of teams all looking your way. What do you attribute this to?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was now granted, coming from an NAIA school, it's still hard to gain interest because some people are like, oh, NAIA, it's worse than D3. In reality, it's not. Like, we're D1 FCS level, or the worst schools are at least D2 level of talent, which is still better than D3. No offense to any D3 guys out there. But no, I mean, a lot of it was just kind of building momentum. So I started building momentum, like getting invited to the National Scouting Combine and taking a lower level arena team just because I had to find something with the Peach State Cats. And then other opportunities started to arise, like some potentials in the spring league. And I mean, the like Hub Camp coming open, which got me some NFL interest that made me think I was going to be in the league last year as a UDFA, like in my rookie year. And then some interest to finish off the IFL season last year and make a rookie debut in the IFL with like the Spokane Shock or Bismarck Bucks. But opportunities just didn't work out to sign on the dotted line, or at least me to feel comfortable that I would be safe with some of the issues that they had on the O-line to finish off that year, and that was more of a protection thing on my behalf. But no, I mean, it was just kind of all building momentum, and some of it was kind of building momentum and then slowing down the steam in 2021, and then my agent's like, hey, we towards the end of 2021, maybe we need to shut up on the pipe dream of an NFL opportunity and say, hey, like, we got to be realistic of our options. Maybe you just got to be arena for a couple of years while you build up film and try to gain some NFL opportunity. But everything I was hearing from Tom and Robert over at Tom House Sports and National Pitching was like, you're an NFL quarterback. You just need one opportunity to break your way. And once you're in the meeting room, once you're in the locker room, you're going to prove that you belong, even though you came from an AIA school. And so that kind of kept me working hard, kept me going. And it was, again, building momentum. So Brandy was very helpful on getting me to sign a contract with the Tucson Sugar Skulls. Had a contract that I was actually going to sign before that with the West Texas Warbirds, but just didn't work out there. So ended up in Tucson. And then that's when really things started gaining momentum. So in January, went to the Pro Gridiron Showcase in my old college stadium in Farrington Field in Fort Worth here, and balled out there. Got some CFL interest from Winnipeg and some other NFL teams to look, like the Ravens, Raiders, and Rams. And and then that turned into some more workouts with Tom, going to city, whether it was Baton Rouge or San Diego or wherever. And then the FCF Tryout, where I really kind of put myself on a big stage and performed, and really kind of hopefully built a name for myself, and said, hey, like, this kid came out of nowhere. Like, who is he? Now, granted, it hasn't turned into being signed yet. The commissioner told me at one point, like we were always in need of quarterbacks. So maybe I'll have my phone ring after week 1 or week 2 when quarterback play really starts to happen. But again, that building momentum had me apply to the USFL draft, and again, wasn't drafted by the USFL. But again, it's building momentum, and at least they're recognizing what I'm doing. And then getting re-invited to Hub in March. And then obviously before that, going through training camp with the Tucson Sugar Skulls and all the CFL teams that were gaining interest from the Pro Gridiron Showcase, and then Hub, and creating kind of a path for me now to where over like the next 7 weeks, well, it's not 7 weeks now, it's like 5 more weeks, 4 more weeks after this, if you include this weekend. But over like the next 7 weeks, I knew that I was going to have a Hub camp in late March, and then workouts with CFL teams each and every Saturday from here through May 7th, or from there through May 7th, pretty much. And knowing that this is truly my shot to go put up good numbers, and to go show that, hey, like, I could throw a football. I deserve to be in the CFL, and you passed on me last year, and that was a mistake. And I feel like I've done that thus far. Now, granted, it hasn't turned into a phone call just yet, but I think I'm just one solid break away from getting that true phone call and signing with a team and start fighting to prove that I belong in the CFL, go make a name for myself very quickly, like I've done so far, and then hopefully in the NFL by the end of this year, or again, just continue building momentum and don't let it stop, and hopefully NFL next year or whatever. Who knows what the journey's going to truly bring, but I know who holds my future. And so I'm just going to continue to pursue it as long as the gates and doors are open for it. And I'm building a lot of momentum right now. So I'm going to definitely try to keep it going. And again, like I said, I think we're right on the horizon to something really, really big.
I would agree. I mean, like you said, you're on the horizon of something big with all these teams looking your way. It's only a matter of time before somebody realizes that you belong in one of these leagues, whether it's the CFL or the NFL. I personally think it's going to be in the NFL, but we'll see how things go. I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I think the draft class for 2022 is kind of pointing more teams your direction. I mean, you're still very young. You came out last season basically, and you've got some playing experience at the professional level, and with the lack of top end talent in this draft, I think that's really going to benefit you long term in the NFL and the CFL. So
Oh yeah, I mean,
definitely.
and the thing is too, not to add more value to myself, but I was a young guy for my class anyway. I'm still 23. I'll be 24 in June, and I've already got 2 degrees, and I've already been 1 year pro. So, so most guys who have been to college for 4.5 years are like 25, 26.
Yep.
And so I still got age on my side and stuff too. But I will kind of backtrack a little bit and say my bias as having one of my best buddies, Malik Willis. I think he's going to prove that this class, at least at the top, is going to be a very changing draft, even if it's just the one guy. Because there's not very many people that I think are better than me whenever I go work out. And yeah, this may be biased because he's one of my best friends, but no, Malik Willis is definitely different, and he's going to make whatever team takes him extremely happy. I'm hoping it's not one of the teams that's looking at me because I don't want to be his backup. But hey, if he's got to be a backup to open up a door to bring me into camp, so be it. I mean, I'll hold that clipboard and take whatever team role I can and try to outwork them. And whether it's that team or another team, we'll open up whatever. But no, I mean, Malik's a special kid, great kid too. Love him to death, and he knows that. But no, I mean, Kenny Pickett, I think he's very solid.
True.
But again, I think a lot of these quarterbacks, if any of them are going to be good in the league, they're going to be developmental prospects. Malik, I still think is a guy that needs to develop too, even though I think he's going to be very good. But again, like I've got personal experience working with Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts too. And those are guys that I look at. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely on par with them, even though maybe as an athlete, they're better. But throwing wise, I'm definitely on par, if not maybe a little better than both of them, even though they're still tremendous players. But they're still in a stage where they've got to develop and stuff too. Like, yep. Unfortunately for Jalen, like I know Philadelphia loves him, and I still think he's got a chance to be the guy in Philly. But if this season doesn't go very well, y'all are probably booing him off the stage. And all right, let's get the next guy in town. Yep. So it's a big year for him too. So I mean, I think the league is in a great spot to give me a shot. And I think I'm peaking right at the right time. And unfortunately, there are some organizations that say, oh, no, if he's not 6'5", throwing 75 yards, then we're not going to take him. But teams like New Orleans or the Indianapolis Colts or even the Falcons and the 49ers, they're okay taking the 6'1" guy. I'm 6'1" myself. And so, I mean, teams are looking, teams are ready. So hopefully we just find the right pairing and let's get started on this NFL journey.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, and as we just talked about, you got a significant amount of interest this season after signing for the Tucson Sugar Skulls. Your coach in Tucson was a former player himself in the IFL. Do you think this had anything to do with him ultimately deciding to kind of give you this time to pursue these opportunities?
Well, hey, during the 11 or so days of training camp that I was there, one thing Dixie said every single day was, we're here to go to the next level. Whether it was him saying, hey, I'm here to go to the next level as a coach, you're here to go to the next level as a player. And that drove everything that he did running the organization. And so if our athletic trainer, Luke, who was actually an intern with the Denver Broncos last year, and he's an up-and-coming trainer that I think is going to be a very amazing guy pretty soon. But no, I mean, if Luke was busy, Dixie would take a foam roller and roll you out. And most head coaches won't do that. And he'll take care of you. And he runs a good organization there. And I mean, he's definitely a player's man, and you can tell that because he was a player himself. And so he would we had the plan when I only had like 2 or 3 teams interested of, I'll stay a Sugar Skull, even if it's me being the backup. And I'm going to go to the CFL tryouts on this day or this day. And then rejoin the team like the day later on the off day, and then whatever games I could play, I can play. But once things really started to kind of open up, I had to make the decision like, hey, like I can't put the organization in a situation like this. And they were fortunate enough to grant the release for me to go pursue these opportunities. And who knows what happens if I don't get signed, if that door would be open to return, or another team that's had interest in me that is in an area that I'm currently in would want to take a shot on me. Because I know their coaches have really liked me, and they just didn't have a coaching staff when I was trying to get signed there. So, I mean, who knows what's really going to unfold after we get to May 7th and when CFL training camp opens or rookie minicamp opens May 9th. But I'm definitely in it for the long haul, whatever I've got to do to get the film and to prove whatever teams are saying, oh, no, he's not from a D1. We're not going to give him a shot. Because at this point, I feel like that's the one knock against me. I think I've proven I'm an NFL talent. It's just they see the film and they're like, okay, he's great, but like it's not Division I talent, so he can't do it on the field with guys. So I think that's like the one thing that's harping or that's the big criticism of my game probably. Now, granted, every coach and scout I've talked to hasn't said that. But then again, I'm not in the meeting room when they're actually watching my film. It's the confirmation or the criticisms that I'm asking for whenever I'm done with a workout when they're seeing me in the person. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long journey. Who knows what happens and where I'll go next, whether it's back to the IFL or stay a free agent for a little bit longer because I'm waiting on some NFL teams to see what they do at the draft. And I mean, I've got multiple different options. Whenever I got to do, we're definitely going to take that and make the most of it.
Absolutely. Shoot, you could get a call from the USFL next week the way things are going.
Yeah, I mean, hey, and like I said earlier, Fan Control Football League could invite me at some point because obviously I was if you want to go say that, okay, Dalton was better than you at that one camp, then I was definitely the second best guy at the camp. And I think I proved if he's 1A, I'm 1B. But in reality, I think performance-wise, it was 1A, me, 1AB, Dalton. So I think it was more the Johnny Manziel returning and obviously Terrell Owens now being in the Fan Control Football League, which is weird for me to see of his age. But no, I mean, I think right now I don't have the media hype, which kind of goes against my favor in a fan controlled league. But no, I mean, doors will probably open there too at some point, and then what'll happen is I'll have too many doors open, and then it'll be a hard decision whether it's USFL, XFL next year or whatever. So yeah, I mean, who knows what opportunities are going to open? I'm just going to take it day by day because that's all you can do in this business. Take it day by day, figure out what you can do today to get better, and what opportunities present itself, and whatever's the best one you need to take.
Absolutely. So obviously you're kind of looking above these leagues that we're about to talk about, but I'm curious what your overall opinion is on spring football and the fact that we're going to have potentially 3 leagues launching between this season and next season. Also, what are your opinions, if you've seen them, on the coaches that were announced for the XFL?
Yeah, so I haven't really done a big in-depth look at all the coaches, but I've obviously kind of like scrolled past it. Excuse me. Whenever they kind of announce the coaches. So I've seen it on Twitter. I can't really name any of them right off the head right now, just because we've talked for so long, I've forgotten them. But obviously, I know Hines Ward was one of them. Yeah. But there were a couple more. I mean, Hines is definitely someone I'd love to play for. Yeah, Rod Woodson would be another one. But the Georgia connection, Hines Ward. I know you're receivers coach. I'll definitely put your receivers in good positions. But no, I mean, I think they've got good staffs, and the fact that the XFL is partnering with the NFL to develop players for their league this year, as well as develop players long term for the NFL. I think that's going to make it a very desirable location to be. I mean, the CFL is losing talent to the USFL because they're paying a little bit more, and obviously you're staying in the States, so you're not double taxed. And it's in the state of Alabama, where I think it's only like an 8% sales tax or whatever, or income tax. So, I mean, and the USFL is a great place to be too. I mean, I'm still not quite sold on these spring leagues, just solely because like they come out with a bang and then they're dead by the end of the year. And so, granted, if I've got the opportunity to play there, I think for any player, it's an amazing opportunity. I'm just not quite sure yet. I need to be proven wrong in terms of the financials can keep up what they're promising so that the league can stay. But also as a player, it does kind of suck that a lot of us borderline guys that deserve to be in NFL training camps or CFL camps at the very least, let alone on those rosters 53s. Like if we've got to play in the XFL or the USFL or an arena league or the fan controlled football league, and then we immediately get picked up for camp, like the way the IFL season is, you go through a grueling 8 or 11 days of training camp nonstop, then you're directly in a 16-game season plus playoffs. You're done you're done with the regular season, or if you're looking at the schedule this year, we would have been done in Tucson July 19th. NFL training camps pretty much start that same week. And so your body's taking a massive beating of a 16-game season, and then you're back in then you're back in the grind of NFL stuff where you're trying to go through training camp and mini camps and all that, trying to make a roster. So for borderline guys like us, like the health aspect needs to be looked at. But then again, like, I mean, leagues are in it to make money, and you obviously can't put a league like the XFL or USFL in the fall because it's destined to fail because the NFL's market is so big and college football is so big that you're not going to compete against it. The only thing you're really competing against now is with each other for players and now for TV and media coverage. And then you're competing with spring football, which is only a month in college football. So, I mean, I think it's the perfect time from a business standpoint, and I completely understand it. And I'm a fan of it too. But just from a player safety standpoint, it could very well cause some issues long term if you've got guys that, or like if the NFL truly treats the XFL like a minor league, where you've got like let's just use Trinity Benson for example, because I know he's unfortunately lower on the depth chart in Detroit. If they're like, hey, like you're gonna get 150 snaps this season with the Lions, and then we're gonna go send you down to the Houston Gamblers or whatever in the XFL, and you're going to go play a full 10-game season in the spring, and then you're immediately done and back in training camp. Like, that's going to ruin his career, just going back and forth like that. And so I don't say that to say that I'm not opposed to it. I'm definitely a fan of it. But I do think that, like, the idea of player safety does need to be looked at. And obviously with some of the rule changes that these spring leagues are trying to make the game safer and test out some things, I think that'll help. But a lot of it's going to be based on how are these kind of more old school coaches, because obviously USFL's got a lot of old school coaches. Are they going to be okay, we're practicing 5 days a week in full pads and go play a game? Or are they going to take more of a modern approach of, okay, you need to protect your bodies because this game is physical. Even though guys are getting smaller again, the force that is being applied to our bodies is intense. And you need recovery and you need rest rather than just going at it the entire time. Absolutely.
So just for a quick rundown on the XFL coaches, it's Wade Phillips, Jim Haslett, Bob Stoops, Reggie Barlow, Terrell Buckley, Hines Ward, Rod Woodson, and Anthony Becht.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's a good staff. I mean, you've got some NFL experience there, whether it's as a player or as a coach. I mean, Wade Phillips is definitely one who definitely will carry some pedigree around the league. But then again, you've got the players that are Hall of Famers too that will probably carry more pedigree just because the type of players they were, and they're still younger coaches and more modern. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of Skip Holtz in the USFL. I know some players that played at Louisiana Tech with him, and I know he's a good coach. I mean, so I think the XFL's got a good set of coaches. USFL, I think, has got a good set of coaches too. So from a coaching standpoint, I think they're good. Schemes will be good. Teams will be good. Rosters should be good. But again, it all comes down to the management and how much TV money and revenue is generated on if the league can truly stay. True, 100%. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, the dollar is the king when it comes to sports.
So we talked about this off camera, and I kind of want to lock it in. Are you willing to come back on with me and break the news when you do sign a contract?
Oh, most definitely. Got to get it passed through the agent first, but I'm more than
Okay,
likely
cool.
she's 100% good to have me make a signing announcement as long as she gets the post at the same time I'm on the live stream.
Oh, that's okay. It's Brandy, right?
Yep, Brandy Runyon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, she'll actually be joining us on Shady Sports Network for an interview at some point as well. So hopefully I
Well,
can
there you go. You can ask her
bring
there and
that.
drill her there.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the big things that I've always wanted to do when I started this was highlight the women that are in the sports world,
Mhm.
specifically football. I mean, as you and I both know, this is a male dominated sport, even though, as we both know, women have a place in it. And
Yep.
whether it's coaches, executives, agents, whatever it may be, I've been reaching out, and Brandy was one of the first to agree. And it was kind of cool to hear from. And it's just a small world to see that, I talked to you and Caleb and now Brandy's going to be coming on at some point. So it's kind of funny to see. I'm gaining an appreciation for Black Diamond
Yeah.
just simply based off that. It's kind of cool to see that all you guys are not only willing to talk to me, but like you're all great people. So
Oh yeah, I
it
mean,
was
and
nice.
that's the thing too. Brandy runs a very, very, very tight ship, very well run organization. I mean, she cares about her guys, and hey, she's got a book out too. Can't tell you the full name just because it's extremely long name, but it's essentially like diamonds in the rough, turning like free agents into finding your destination home or whatever. But it's a good book. It's soon to really fully drop. I think it's only dropped just kind of us and the agency to kind of read through it, make sure there's no typos in it. But it's a good book from what I've read so far. So I think anybody will enjoy it. But she cares about her players. Great team she's got with her surrounding her. So, I mean, funny enough that as soon as I left Texas-Wesleyan, I was coined a 2021 NFL Draft Diamond, and then I'm represented by Black Diamond. So I'm just a diamond in the rough here, ready to be picked up and make some diamonds. So.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, once again, Justin, thanks so much for coming on, man. And I would love to speak with you again. In fact, you said something earlier. I will talk to you a little bit more off camera, but comparing the NFL game and the arena game, if you're ever interested, I would love to do a full episode just on that, just to
Oh,
talk about
definitely.
all of the differences and the intricacies from the arena game to the NFL game would be awesome. So
Oh,
I definitely,
definitely.
like
Yeah.
I said, we'll talk about that more off camera, but it would definitely be something cool that we could do later on.
Oh yeah. Well, again, Sam, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, love this conversation. It was 2 minutes and 12 minutes or 2 hours and 12 minutes of some awesome conversation. And, I mean, hey, I'm always game to hop on here another time and talk football, whether it's me or somebody else or just the game of football. So, I mean, hey, I'm available.
I appreciate that, man, so much. And once again, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Sorry for taking up so much of your time. I definitely did not expect this.
Oh, you're good. I'll get some nice sleep, go work out in the morning, and then back to go deal with some kids before the next CFL workout on Saturday.
There you go. There you go. All right, man. Have a great rest of your night, and I will catch you in the next video, I guess. Have a good one, man. All right. So once again, that was Justin Arth. As you caught on here, he's just a genuine guy. He is one of those people that you want to interact with and you want to be able to root for because he's just a genuinely cool guy. I mean, he literally this whole thing came from a conversation on Twitter. I literally just happened to, I think I congratulated him on a post on one of his posts, and it spurred into a whole conversation. And next thing I know, he's coming on the channel for an interview. And we had a 2 hour and almost 15-minute conversation about his career. And I legitimately skipped probably 7 to 10 questions I had for him. He's just an interesting guy with an interesting career. A man who helped build a college program from scratch. He's Tom House's right-hand man and has launched a quarterback training program of his own. He's the type of player who is a perfect example of not only getting the right opportunity to showcase himself, yet still being a team player and accepting his role to help his team. He was kind of like I said earlier, yo-yoed in and out of the lineup in college and then was dealt a tough blow when COVID hit in year 5, despite sticking with that program that long. Ultimately, a soft draft class in 2022 should help, like we mentioned. But at the same time, all we can do, or all Justin can do, is work his ass off like he has been and continue to go to these workouts and show teams what he's got. It's up to one of them to ultimately offer him the contract and give him the opportunity he needs to showcase himself. But I know that once he gets that opportunity, he's not going to let it slip through his fingers, and he's absolutely going to prove those coaches right for signing him. Whether it's back in the NFL or whether it's in the NFL, at the CFL, or back in the IFL, it's going to be with one team or another, and they're going to be so happy that they re-signed or signed him to a contract. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Once again, Justin, thank you so much for coming on. I really can't thank you enough, man, and best of luck with everything going forward. I really do think that one of these workouts that you recently had is going to pan out and ultimately give you the opportunity you need. And I, for one, am hoping it's with San Francisco. I really think you'd fit in that offense great. But I'll let you guys all go. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun for me. And like I said, hopefully we can have Justin back on in the future and break some news when he signs with the team, or just generally to have a conversation with him because he's a good dude. But you guys have a great night, and I'll catch you in the next video.